Abandoned by her mate, she discovers an incredible strength to become the Alpha's last hope. Lila stood in the charred shell of the community center, heart racing as smoke curled into the sky like the memories of happier times. The laughter of children echoed in her mind, a bittersweet reminder of what had been lost. It felt like her town had been ripped open, leaving behind raw wounds and aching hearts. She was a single mother, 32 years old, and already too familiar with loss. With her partner walking out months ago, leaving her with only Zoe's innocent giggles, it felt like the universe had dealt her a cruel hand. But this was different. The fire had taken away more than a building. It had snuffed out a sense of belonging, a tapestry of community woven with the threads of shared potlucks, town meetings, and childhood memories. Tears prickled her eyes, but she blinked them away, recognizing a flicker of strength within her. If the center was lost, then maybe it was time to rally arms to rebuild something even stronger, something that could lift them all beyond this darkness. "Mommy," Zoe tugged at her sleeve, wide-eyed and curious. "Will the community center come back?" "Of course, sweetheart," Lila said, her voice firmer than she felt. "We'll help rebuild it together." A promise whispered to her daughter, and in that moment, something ignited within her, a spark of determination fueled by love. As word spread through Cedar Pines, Lila found herself propelled into an unexpected leadership role. She gathered volunteers, pulled resources from every corner, and opened the doors for meetings filled with the murmurs of cautious hope. Yet whispers followed her. A single mom spearheading a community project. Some doubted her ability, their brows furrowing as they whispered behind their hands. "Just a girl with a kid," one man scoffed in the corner of the crowded room. The murmurs rolled over her like cold waves, tightening her chest. Doubt crept in, but she fought it back with each meeting, fueled by the love for Zoe and the fierce belief that they could rise together. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Lila organized the fundraiser, hoping to galvanize the scattered town. Some came to help, and others came hesitant, burdened by old grudges and biases. Emotions flared as they confronted long-standing tensions, class prejudices woven thick as the smoke that had billowed over their beloved center. But she refused to let it crumble. She believed in healing and standing together, and she was ready to remind them that they were not just rebuilding a building, but their shared identity as Cedar Pines. Then, just as they began to find their footing, shadows of her past seeped in. Whispers of betrayal from her partner and the struggles that followed surfaced like buried bones, rattling her conscience. A cacophony of doubt rose inside her, and as she stood before the gathered crowd, heart thumping, she contemplated. Could she rise above this fear? With each breath she steeled herself. This was her moment. Could she lead them out of this darkness? Or would her own fears extinguish the flame of hope flickering within her? The crowd's expectant eyes locked onto hers, and for a heartbeat, the world went silent. Lila drew in a shuddering breath, ready to take that leap. As Lila's breath steadied, she found the strength within herself that had lurked beneath the surface. Her heart thundered like a distant drum, and she could feel the weight of the townsfolk's stares. They were searching, waiting for something: guidance, courage, perhaps a flicker of hope. "Cedar Pines needs us now," Lila began, her voice rising above the murmur that filled the room. "We are not just here to mourn what we lost. We are here to remember how we came together, to create something even greater." Her words sprang forth, each syllable infused with a determination that resonated through the crowd. She watched their expressions shift, doubt giving way to interest. A few nodded, the first sprigs of collective strength unfurling. "Together we can reclaim our community center," she continued, the fire inside illuminating her tone. "Let us not just rebuild walls. Let us rebuild memories, friendships, and our very essence as a town." Zoe, nestled in the back row, clutched a small stuffed bear. Her wide eyes blinked, sparkling with the hopeful innocence only a child could hold. Lila cast a glance toward her daughter, and the sight wrapped around her heart. This was for Zoe, for every child who deserved a safe space to grow, learn, and laugh. With the spirit of resolve capturing the room, Lila outlined her vision for the future. A community raised from the ashes of despair, a center that would no longer be just a building but a beacon of unity and strength. Ideas rushed forth as she encouraged them to share their dreams and fears. One woman spoke of art classes, while another suggested a learning space for parents. But just as momentum began to build, it came crashing down. A figure stood at the back, arms crossed defiantly. It was Darren, her former partner's brother. His scowl cut through the buzz like a knife. "And what makes you think you can lead these efforts?" he challenged. "You left us once. Why should we trust you now?" Lila felt her breath hitch at the onslaught, the sting of old wounds resurfacing. He wasn't just questioning her capability. He was dredging up feelings of inadequacy that she thought she'd set aside. For a moment, the walls felt like they were closing in. Fear whispered painfully in her ear, asking if this was where she would falter. But then Zoe's soft voice broke through, "Mommy is strong." It was innocent, pure and true. The room quieted, every eye drawn back to Lila, who straightened her back, letting her daughter's faith fill her like a shield. "I may have stumbled before," she answered Darren, meeting his eyes boldly. "But that's the beauty of resilience. I stand here today not just as Lila, the single mom, but as someone who believes in the strength of this community. I believe we can rise together." Her words flowed, spilling out the hope she had bottled for far too long. With each syllable, she wove a tapestry of determination that reached out to every corner of the room. She could see the flickers of change, a nod here, a whisper of agreement there. And just as a new energy began to swell, the door swung open with a force, the promise of the outside world rushing in. An unexpected visitor stood framed in the doorway, breathless and wild-eyed. "You need to listen to me. We're in danger." Lila's heart dropped, the air thickening with uncertainty. What lay ahead was shrouded in unknown shadows. Was this a test of her strength? Or the beginning of a new challenge to overcome? Hope can inspire, but fear can just as easily paralyze. What would she choose to face next? Lila's heart raced as she took in the wild-eyed figure in the doorway. The buzz of the room fell to an uneasy silence. Everyone turned, eyes widening, hearts beating faster. The newcomer was Hope, the town's mail carrier. Just a few days ago, she had been delivering cheerful letters and packages, the very heartbeat of Cedar Pines. Now her frantic expression painted a different picture. "What is happening?" Lila asked, stepping forward. Her voice cut through the stillness, bold and calm despite the tremors inside her. "There's a wildfire spreading fast from the north. I saw the smoke rising, and it's making its way down the mountains," Hope gasped, her hands trembling. "If we don't act quickly, Cedar Pines could be in serious trouble." Panic surged through Lila. The community center they hoped to save, the heart of their revival, suddenly felt so fragile. "How much time do we have?" she pressed, fear creeping in. "Not long. We need to get everyone organized," Hope replied, forcing herself to breathe deeply. The town was vulnerable. The wooden structures of their homes stood like kindling ready to ignite. Darren, still standing in the back, spoke up. "What do we do? We can't just stand here." His voice held an edge of urgency she hadn't heard before. "Let us gather what we can and warn everyone," Lila suggested, her heartbeat sinking with the rising tide of fear. "Everyone needs to evacuate safely. We can't lose anyone else to this." People began to shout out ideas, their voices rising in a rush of activity. Lila felt the collective energy snapping into action, each person contributing to the solution. Zoe grabbed her hand, holding it tightly as anxiety flickered in her eyes. Lila knelt beside her. "Honey, I need you to be brave for me just a little longer. Can you do that?" Zoe nodded, though her lips trembled. Together they moved into action. Lila sent groups to check on the elderly and those with mobility issues. Hope went to help gather supplies, while Darren positioned himself to spread the word on the urgent evacuation. Each task felt like a lifeline, pulling them tighter together as a community. It was in moments like these that Lila could sense their shared purpose, the thread of resilience weaving through each silent prayer. As they rushed out into the crisp air filled with the scent of pine and the increasing smoke that obscured the sky, Lila paused for a moment, scanning the horizon. The flames flickered like angry spirits, the sun setting behind them, painting the sky in hues of red and gold. "Let us get everyone to safety," Lila called, her voice focused, rallying behind the urgency of immediate action. And let us not forget our center. When we're safe, we'll find a way to rebuild. The townsfolk echoed her words, a collective cheer of faith and bravado. But as she led them through the gathering chaos, doubt still found its way back into Lila's heart. Would they all truly be safe? Could she lead them through this just as she had tried to lead them from despair? In that moment, everything hung in the balance. A community forged in unity could still crumble under fire. Lila gritted her teeth, pushing through the heat of uncertainty. But she couldn't shake the feeling a storm was brewing, one that might be even fiercer than the flames. As they reached the edge of the town limits, with the mountains of cedar pines towering behind them, a scream shattered the tense atmosphere. Help! Someone's trapped. The desperate cry rang out, piercing Lila's heart. She felt herself torn, pulled between the safety of the group and the instinct to help. They had to act. There was no time to think. Who was in peril? And would they have what it took to rescue whoever it was in danger? Lila felt her pulse quicken again, but this time it wasn't just fear that surged through her veins. It was determination. She had faced decisions before, but this one felt different. It mattered. Now it was more than just about her resilience, it was about their collective fate. Whoever it is, we can't leave them behind, she shouted. Let us go. As she sprinted toward the fading light, the shadows loomed, and neither the flames nor their fears could hold her back. What awaited them ahead she could only guess. Would they save a life? Or would it all come crashing down once more? The night held its secrets tight, but Lila knew one thing: this fight hadn't ended yet. Lila raced toward the edge of the woods, where the scream had come from, the heat from the advancing flames licking at her back. The smell of smoke grew stronger, mixing with the familiar scent of burnt pine. Each step rattled in her chest, fueling her urgency. Who was trapped? Where were they? Stay close. She called to Zoe, who clung to her side, wide-eyed and scared. Lila could feel the little girl's heart beating erratically against her hand. They had to find the source of that CRY. As they pushed deeper into the trees, the shadows danced, twisting under the weight of the smoke. Lila could see a flicker of movement ahead. Hello? She shouted, hope and fear colliding in her voice. Over here, came a faint voice, thick with desperation. It wasn't far from where they stood, but a mass of brush and burning undergrowth lay between them and the cries. The sound grew louder with each frantic call for help, reverberating in Lila's mind. Keep going. We're coming, she urged, determination shining through the fear. Darren and Hope caught up behind them, faces set with a mix of resolve and worry. Where's the voice coming from? Darren panted, scanning the area. Just ahead. I can hear them, Lila replied, rushing toward the sound. The unseen trapped figure was alive, and that spark of life spurred her forward. They maneuvered around fallen branches and thick underbrush. Lila's heart ached with each step as the frustration of nature itself seemed to build a wall against them. What if they didn't make it in time? Suddenly they burst into a clearing where the flames flickered dangerously close, reaching toward the trees like greedy hands. Fear gripped Lila and she searched frantically. Help! I'm stuck. There it was again, that cry piercing the chaos. Where are you? Hope shouted, her voice cutting through the smoke. Over here. The voice was weak, pleading. Lila's eyes found a figure on the ground, buried under a heavy branch, with only part of their body visible. The unmistakable outline of a man, Tom, the mechanic from town. He was the last person Lila expected to be in this situation. Tom! Lila dashed forward, dragging Zoe along. Stay right here, she whispered to the girl and knelt by the trapped man. Lila! Can't get it off. Tom grimaced, his face smeared with dirt and panic, eyes darting to the approaching flames. The heat intensified, the crackling of the fire growing more ominous. Hold on! Lila shouted over the roar. We're going to get you out. With Darren joining her, they grasped the branch, sweat pouring down their faces as they fought against the weight. Every muscle screamed as they pulled, the flames drawing nearer. Faster! Tom cried, his voice strained. Just a little more. Lila yelled. They couldn't afford to fail, not now. With a surge of determination, Lila found a second wind, her body responding to the adrenaline. Finally, the branch shifted, and with one last heave it rolled off him. Tom gasped free, but they didn't have time to breathe. The fire crackled loudly, smoke engulfing them as they turned to run. "Let us go. Move," Darren shouted, pulling Lila by the arm. Each step tasted of smoke and fear brewed with hope. They pushed through the wall of heat, hearts racing away from the flames as they crunched back through the underbrush. Zoe lagged behind, her face pinched in fear, but Lila tightened her grip. "We're almost there," she urged, feeling the frantic pulse of the moment. Just as they reached the safety of a nearby clearing, Lila stole a glance back at the chaos they were fleeing. The flames danced like demons, swirling with fury. As relief washed over her, a thought pierced through the haze of panic. Had Tom really survived? And what would happen if they didn't get everyone out in time? Breathless, they regrouped in the newly opened space, but before Lila could articulate the next steps, another voice broke through the chaos. "The bridge to town, it's on fire." A new pang of dread crashed into her gut. "What do you mean?" The realization hit like a punch. They might not be able to escape. The very place they fought so hard to protect was slipping away from them. "Is there another way?" Darren asked, scanning for answers. As Lila looked into the eyes of her friends, she knew one thing. The fight was far from over. What route would they take to ensure the safety of their community? And could she muster the strength to lead them one last time? "Lila, we can't just stand here." Hope's voice was urgent, slicing through the fog of panic. The flames roared like a wildfire symphony, each crackle a reminder of the urgency they were in. Lila felt the heat on her skin, but it was the fear in Zoe's eyes that truly burned. "Okay, listen," she said, trying to steady her own racing heart. "We have to find another way out. If the bridge is on fire, we could be trapped. We need to find a path around the fire." Darren nodded, looking uncharacteristically shaken. "What about the old logging road? It's not far from here. It might still be clear." "But that road leads toward the old quarry," Hope interjected, her brow furrowed. "What if it's gone too? Then we take that risk," Lila decided, her voice firm now. She couldn't let fear overtake them. "We stick together. We have to move now." Without waiting for more debate, Lila took charge, leading the way through the thinning smoke. Each breath was a struggle, but she pushed through. As they stumbled forward, Lila couldn't help but glance back at Tom. He was on his knees, taking ragged breaths, his face a mask of shock. "Can you walk?" she shouted back, urgency lacing her words. I think so," he gasped, wincing as he got to his feet. "Then come on, stay close," she urged, looking at the group gathered. They were visibly shaken, but determination stirred in their eyes as they began to move again. They moved fast, dodging through trees and brush, Lila's mind racing with thoughts of the town. Other families would be affected. People would be lost. "We need help," she muttered to herself, fear gnawing at her resolve. "Lila! There!" Zoe's small voice reported, breaking her from the spiraling thoughts. Ahead, the logging road was in sight, but the flames had begun to creep into the edges of the trees surrounding it. The barrier to safety was burning. "Come on! Just a little further!" Lila shouted. They sprinted toward the edge of the road, heartbeats syncing with the panic in the air. As they dashed past the last few trees, Lila could feel the heat intensify behind them. A quick glance revealed flames licking the branches, twisting and spiraling down, hungry for their escape. Zoe stumbled, but Lila caught her just in time. "You okay?" she gasped, feeling the weight of the fire's fury pressing on her shoulders. Yeah, Zoe blinked up at her, tears pooling in her eyes. "Good," Lila said, forcing a smile, but inside her heart felt heavy. "We're going to make it. Just hang on." They reached the logging road, the earth beneath their feet hard and cracked. The fire crackled ominously beside them, but the way forward was mostly clear, at least for now. "Which way to the town?" Hope called, scanning the landscape. "Let us keep moving toward the quarry. We'll find a way around," Lila instructed, her voice gaining strength. Just as they stepped onto the road, a deep rumble shook the ground, followed by a crack like thunder. Lila's stomach dropped as she turned to see a tree blackened and weakened by the fire begin to fall. "Run!" she screamed, adrenaline surging as she pulled Zoe along with her. The group bolting down the road just as the massive tree crashed behind them. Heart pounding, Lila fought to keep her focus. They were making headway, but the fire continued to surge, thrashing against the path ahead. Each footfall was a reminder of the stakes they faced. "Which way?" Darren yelled, panic creeping into his voice. We need to split up. Lila shouted back, though the thought terrified her. It might increase our chances to get to town. No way, Tom interjected, shaking his head adamantly. We stick together. It's too dangerous. The decision felt heavy, and as Lila looked around at her friends, their fear, their determination, she realized she couldn't do this alone. All right, she said, voice steady now. We find a way together. But we have to stay close. Just then, a plume of smoke billowed into the sky, blinding them for a moment. When it cleared, a figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, another survivor. Lila's pulse quickened. Help! Over here! The voice called, a mix of despair and urgency flooding the air. What now? Darren spat, glancing at Lila. Before she could respond, a flash of red caught her eye. Farther down the road, another inferno was growing. The sight jolted her heart into overdrive. We have to save them, she yelled, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing hard. She stepped forward, ready to charge into the unknown, but the question churned in her mind. How many lives could she really save today? Lila took a deep breath, ready to lead her friends again into the chaos. What if this was the moment everything changed? Would she face a choice that would define them all? Lila's heart thudded wildly in her chest as she wrestled with her thoughts. Rushing toward the voice felt both instinctual and terrifying. Yet the flames roaring behind them pushed any hesitation aside. Come on, she shouted to her friends, determination coursing through her veins. We have to check it out. With each step closer, the cries for help grew more frantic. Please, I need help. The urgency sent chills down her spine. Be careful, Darren warned, hesitating at the edge of the road. His eyes darted nervously from Lila to the spreading flames. We can't risk it, he urged, even as the desperation in the voice begged them to move faster. Someone is out there. Lila turned to look at him, her resolve steeling. I can't just leave them. She took a deep breath, glancing back at her friends. The uncertainty in their eyes mirrored her own, but she wouldn't give in to fear. Stay close. If anything happens, we regroup right here. They moved together as one, pushing forward through the smoke, hearts pounding in sync with the chaos around them. The voice grew louder, weaving into the crackling fire. It was powerful and desperate. The heat licked at their heels, each step more urgent than the last. Lila's throat felt raw from the smoke. Just a little bit further, she urged, her voice strained but fervent. Finally, they broke through the haze, and there in the clearing, a figure stumbled toward them through the burning underbrush. It was a young man, covered in ash, his shirt slightly burned and his eyes wide with panic. Help me! He cried again, reaching out a shaky hand. Lila rushed forward, grabbing the man's wrist. We need to go now. But just as she turned to lead him back, a fiery branch snapped overhead, crashing down dangerously close. Move! Tom shouted, shoving Lila and the young man aside just before they could react, as the branch fell with a deafening thud. Relief flooded through her as they narrowly avoided disaster, but now they were disoriented, flames roaring all around them. We can't go back, Lila said, glancing around at their surroundings. The fire was swallowing up every escape route. We have to keep moving. What if we can't make it to the quarry? Hope asked, eyes wide with fear. We will, Lila promised, even as uncertainty crept in. It felt like the world was closing in on them. We have to, she echoed, looking into each of their eyes, hoping to ignite determination. Just as they began to move, the ground trembled beneath them. Lila held her breath, watching as the fire crackled loudly, sending sparks flying like angry fireflies into the air. A mighty roar broke through the chaos, and another tree fell, crashing onto the road behind them. Go! Now! Lila yelled, pushing them forward with everything she had left. They sprinted ahead, hearts racing, dodging the erratic flames that seemed to reach for them. They were a heartbeat away from collapse when suddenly Zoe let out a sharp cry. Lila, look! She pointed ahead. The logging road twisted sharply, and at the edge of the clearing, there stood something else, a small, dilapidated cabin, untouched by surrounding flames. Is it safe? Darren asked, breathless. It has to be, Lila said, hope brightening her voice. We can get inside and plan from there. They dashed toward the cabin, the smell of charred wood swirling around them. With no time to waste, Lila pushed the door open, revealing darkened interior shadows. Once inside, they huddled together near the splintered window, peering out at the flames that danced hungrily outside. "We can't stay here long," Tom whispered, his face pale. "What if we're trapped?" Zoe's voice was small. Lila felt her heart clench tight, but then she remembered the young man next to her. "We can't give in to fear. There's always a way out, we just have to find it." Just as she said that, the cabin's foundation trembled, and a loud crack echoed through the trees outside. Lila's stomach dropped. "We need to think fast. If this place collapses." Their eyes met, silent understanding passing among them, but the question gnawed at Lila's heart. How could she be the one to lead them to safety when even she felt the weight of despair inching closer? Would they find strength together? Or was this cabin only a temporary refuge from the chaos outside? The moment hung heavy in the air, and Lila knew they had to act. Every second counted. Lila took a deep breath and gathered her thoughts. The trembling walls served as a stark reminder of their precarious situation. "We need to find a way out," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "If the fire is spreading, we can't afford to wait here." The others nodded, adrenaline coursing through their veins. But as they strategized their escape, the weight of their doubts began to surface. Hope looked around the dingy cabin, eyes darting nervously. "What if we run out of time? What if we don't make it out of here?" "I know it's scary," Lila replied gently, "but right now we're alive and together. That counts for something." Darren stepped forward, looking determined. "We can split up, look for another exit through the back. If we stay close to the sides, we might avoid the flames." "That's risky," Tom interjected, worry etching his features. "What if something happens to one of us?" "We won't leave anyone behind," Lila assured him. "We have to trust each other." The urgency tightened around them, a collective rallying call stirring in their hearts. Suddenly, the cabin creaked ominously, sending a wave of panic through the group. Without wasting a second, they moved to the long-unused kitchen corner, cluttered with dusty pots and broken furniture. Lila directed them. "Let us clear this out. There might be a window back there." As they worked together, the room vibrated with their anxiety, but with each creak of furniture being pushed aside, Lila felt a flicker of hope. The reality of their situation pressed down on them, yet their teamwork ignited a spark. Each movement brought them closer to freedom. Every shove of debris a step toward survival. With a final grunt, they shifted an old cabinet aside, exposing a small window, grimy and half-broken. "We found it!" Zoe exclaimed, her voice a mix of relief and excitement. "Let me check," Lila said. She pushed aside the shards of wood surrounding the window, feeling the heat already close by, but also a faint breeze that suggested an opening. "It's tight, but I can fit through. I can see a way around the cabin toward the woods." Darren joined her at the window, peering out with narrowed eyes. "Then let us move. We don't have time." Lila turned to the others, gauging their expressions. They were frightened but determined. "I'll go first. Once I'm out, I'll help you all one by one." As she wriggled through the window, fear and adrenaline coursed through her. Jagged edges nipped at her skin, but she gritted her teeth and pushed through. When she landed outside, the air felt different. The fire roared behind her, the heat clinging, yet freedom felt close. "Lila!" Tom yelled, and she turned to see him lowering himself onto the ground. As he squeezed through, she grabbed his arm to help hoist him up. Hope was right behind him, her face pale but focused. Then it was Darren's turn. Just as he started, the cabin groaned louder, and Lila felt a moment of dread settle in her stomach. "Hurry!" she shouted, desperate. At that moment, an ear-splitting crash echoed from within, and the cabin swayed violently. The flames had reached it, licking along the boards, and embers shot like projectiles through the air. "Go! Go!" Lila screamed as Tom and Hope scrambled away from the structure. Just as Darren slipped through, a large portion of the roof gave way, falling beside them in a cloud of smoke and fire. The group barely had time to react. Lila's heart raced as she took stock of them, scanning the horizon filled with smoke and flames. "We need to run," she shouted, adrenaline forcing her feet to move. They dashed toward the trees, Lila leading the charge. Each footfall felt heavy. Their breaths labored as they pushed their limits. They could hear the crackling chaos behind them, every step weighed down by fear and urgency. The trees loomed ahead, their branches beckoning. But as they reached the tree line, the fire flickered dangerously close, casting an eerie glow that illuminated the dread in their eyes. Had they really escaped? Or was this just another layer of threat? Lila turned to her friends, all panting and frightened. "We need a plan," she breathed, unsure if she even had the strength to keep going. "And we have to find a safe place, maybe a stream or just." Then motion caught her eye. A figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, moving toward them with purpose. Her stomach dropped. "Who was that?" Zoe whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Lila contemplated their next move, torn between standing firm or fleeing deeper into the woods. Would this stranger be friend or foe? In this moment of uncertainty, hope began to flicker once more, igniting within her like a flame against trailing darkness. "Get ready," she said quietly, her heart pounding. Just ahead, the landscape shifted somewhere in the unknown. Their fight for survival was about to take an unexpected turn. Lila's heart raced as the figure stepped into the light filtering through the trees. It was a man, tall and lean, with wild hair and dirt smeared across his face. His expression was serious, urgent. "Stay back," he called out, raising his hands as if to signal peace. "Who are you?" Lila shouted, her voice trembling with both fear and authority. She didn't want to seem weak in front of her friends. Each of them remained on high alert, eyes scanning the man for any hint of deception. "Please, I mean you no harm," he said, stepping closer, each movement calculated and cautious. "My name is Ben. I was camping nearby when I saw the fire. You're lucky to be alive. This whole area could ignite in minutes." "Camping?" Hope echoed, skepticism lacing her voice. "How do we know you're not just trying to lead us into a trap?" "I can help you get to safety," he insisted, glancing over his shoulder nervously. "But we need to move. The flames will spread any second now." Lila glanced at her friends. They were on the edge of panic, and every second spent standing idly felt dangerous. She lowered her voice, addressing them softly. "What do you think? Do we trust him?" The group exchanged anxious looks. "We don't have many options," Darren murmured, still catching his breath. "Fine," Lila decided, her resolve settling in. "Lead the way." Ben nodded, relief washing over his face. He turned and motioned for them to follow, leading them deeper into the trees. Each step felt precarious, wrought with new uncertainty, but the fire crackling and popping behind them urged them forward. "Did you see anyone else?" Lila asked as they moved swiftly through the underbrush, her mind racing with worry. "Is everyone okay?" "Just you five from the cabin," he replied, glancing back every so often. "But there are others in the vicinity. When I saw the flames, I knew I had to warn anyone nearby." The uncertainty hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Lila's heart beat loudly in her ears. They had escaped the cabin, but now they faced an even bigger question. Were they really safe? Suddenly, they emerged into a small clearing, and Lila's breath caught in her throat. Before them lay a winding stream, its waters shimmering in the fading light. It looked calm, inviting, but she felt an undercurrent of tension. The fire was still too near. "Here, this is a good spot to catch our breath," Ben said, clearly sensing their exhaustion. "The stream will lead us away from the flames." Lila glanced back at the dim outline of the cabin disappearing into smoke. It felt unreal, like a nightmare she had somehow stumbled into. "How do we know it won't follow us? It's moving quickly in the opposite direction. Trust me." They knelt by the stream, splashing water over their faces, trying to shake off the fear that clung like ashes. Lila looked at each of her friends, the fire having bonded them in a way she feared would endure far longer than the flames. Hope caught her gaze and forced a weak smile. "We made it this far." But just as they started to feel a little safe, a distant rumble echoed through the trees, shaking the ground beneath them. A loud crash followed a tree, or maybe something worse, collapsing somewhere nearby. "What was that?" Tom whispered, wide-eyed. Ben's face hardened, and he turned serious again. "We need to keep moving. Now." They pushed off from the edge of the stream, ready to flee deeper into the woods, but Lila stopped again, her gut twisting. What if this isn't safe either? What if we're running into another trap? Ben stepped back, frustration evident on his face. "I promise you there's a cabin, an old ranger station not far from here. Safe, but we need to go now." Lila gulped, weighing her instinct against the urgency. But looking at the faces of her friends, worn and scared, the decision didn't feel like a choice at all. They had to trust him, even if every part of her screamed that it might be a mistake. Okay, she agreed, tilting her chin up. Lead the way. As they moved forward, the shadows lengthened around them, wrapping them in uncertainty. Each rustle of leaves, every snap of twigs felt like the forest itself was alive, holding its breath. Lila stole a glance back at the flickering flames, each glow reminding her just how fragile their escape really was. But she felt a flicker of resolve want to ignite deep within her. Maybe they would find their strength here, in the unknown. Whatever lay ahead, they had to find it together. The woods may be treacherous, but Lila realized this fight was just beginning. And then, just as hope began to bloom, she heard a growl, low and threatening, from somewhere within the shadows. She froze, heart pounding. What was that? Lila breathed, a chill running down her spine. Ben hesitated, eyes widening. We might not be alone in these woods. Lila's pulse spiked. The descent into chaos was far from over, and she realized in that haunting moment, they were far from out of danger. The growl echoed again, a deep rumble that seemed to reverberate off the trees. Lila's heart raced as she scanned the darkening woods. Shadows danced just beyond the tree-line, and a primal fear gripped her throat. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. Stay close, Ben whispered, his voice low but steady, his eyes darting in every direction. Lila caught a glimpse of his knuckles, pale from gripping a jagged branch he'd picked up. It didn't seem like a weapon, more like a desperate measure. The group huddled together, their faces ashen under the fading light. Hope clutched Darren's arm, her breathing quickening. What was that? She was trying to sound brave, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Before Ben could respond, the growl morphed into a snarl, slicing through the air like a hot knife through butter. Lila's stomach dropped. Whatever lurked in the shadows had no intention of hiding anymore. Run! Ben commanded, and his urgency sent them scrambling away from the stream. They tore through the underbrush, branches scratching at their arms and legs, their breath hitching in their throats. The narrow path felt like a wild maze, with darkness enveloping them inch by inch. Lila's instincts kicked in. She tried to remember the layout of the forest from their earlier hike, the towering trees, dips in the ground, rising hills. Panic squeezed her chest. Where are we going? She gasped, glancing back at the beast that followed them, its growl now a low thrum of menace that urged them to move faster. Towards the ranger station. Ben shouted over his shoulder. It's not far. But doubt wormed its way into Lila's mind. This wasn't just a chase. It felt like a desperate attempt to escape something ancient and hungry. The thought sent chills through her. Each step felt like running deeper into a trap of her own making. They burst into another clearing, larger than the last but shadowed with ominous shapes. This way. Ben pointed toward a thicket of trees with twisted branches. We can hide there. Hope hesitated, fear in her eyes. What if it finds us? Just trust me. Ben's voice brimmed with a fierce determination that struck Lila as compelling. They scrambled into the thicket, finding refuge behind thick trunks and intertwining branches. The group huddled together, trying to catch their breath and make sense of their spiraling fear. A heavy silence settled around them, broken only by the sound of the beast prowling nearby. Claws scraping against the ground, Lila's heart pounded in rhythm with the heavy footfalls approaching their hiding spot. Her skin prickled with recognition. This wasn't merely a predator seeking prey. The way it circled, the calculated footsteps, it felt intelligent, as if it was testing their resolve. Do you have any weapons? She whispered to Ben, desperation lacing her words. He shook his head. We can't fight it. If it finds us, then what? Lila pressed, urgency in her voice. The realization shocked her. She couldn't just wait to be discovered. They had to take action. Suddenly, a thought sparked and unfurled in her mind. If it's intelligent, maybe we can distract it. What do you mean? Hope asked, wide-eyed. We can create noise, something to draw it away from here. Ben, do you have any ideas? Ben seemed lost in thought, then nodded slowly. If we can find something to throw. Something loud. Lila added, her mind racing. We need to divert its attention just long enough to slip away. Darren and Tom exchanged glances and nodded, determination shadowing their fear. They had come this far together. There was no backing down now. With renewed urgency, Lila scanned the undergrowth. Just ahead lay a pile of dry branches and sticks, remnants of an old campfire. There. We can make noise if we throw those. As they prepared to grab the makeshift projectiles, the growl erupted again, sharper and closer. Lila's heart thudded in her chest. Time was running out, and the shadows were closing in. "Let us do this," she breathed, her voice quiet but fierce. They had to take this chance or they might never get another. As they reached for the sticks, the beast suddenly burst from the shadows, revealing itself. A massive figure, eyes glowing like hot coals, its growl shifting from a warning to a challenge. Lila's breath caught in her throat. This was it. The battle for their survival was closer than ever. In that moment she realized something deep within herself. This wasn't just about escape, it was about standing tall against a force that wanted to tear them apart. And her heart swelled with fierce courage, ready to confront whatever was coming next. When suddenly the ground shook with another roar. What would they do now? Would they face the creature together? Or was retreat their only option? Lila's heart raced as she faced the beast lurking at the edge of the thicket, its eyes glaring like molten fire. For a moment, fear threatened to crush her spirit. But then she remembered Zoe, her daughter, needed her to be strong. Steady, she urged the group, forcing a calm she didn't feel. This was a fight to survive, not just for them but for their entire community still on the brink of destruction. With a fierce push of determination, Lila tore a stick from the ground, its surface rough against her palm. "On my count. We throw these, then move," she whispered, her voice steady. "Ready." Ben nodded, gripping a branch tightly. The others mirrored his resolve, sweat glistening on their foreheads, faces lit with desperation but ignited with purpose. 1, 2. As she counted, the growl echoed louder, resonating deep in her bones, sending adrenaline coursing through her veins. 3. They hurled the branches into the underbrush away from their hiding spot, the cracking noise breaking the tense silence that wrapped around them like a thick fog. With a fierce grunt, Lila dashed toward another thicket, motioning for the others to follow. For a heartbeat, the creature paused, drawn to the noise, and that moment stretched out like a lifeline. They slipped away, hearts pounding, bodies moving instinctively through the darkness, weaving among the trees as the beast thundered closer. Lila could hear the crackle of branches breaking behind them, could sense the weight of that intelligent gaze, searching, hunting. The shadows of the forest became a blur around them. Hope ran beside her, panting, glancing back in dread. "Will it follow us?" "Not if we keep moving." Lila pressed on, pushing through the foliage, each breath heavy with smoke, the air thick and electric with uncertainty. "Where's the ranger station?" Darren's voice trembled as they turned another corner, the path unwinding like a trickster, forcing them deeper into the woods. "There's a winding path near the stream," Ben panted, glancing back, "but we're still a ways off. Stay focused." Minutes passed that felt like hours. Every sound of crackling leaves fueled their panic, further urging them to run. Just ahead, a glimmer of light broke through the tree density. "There." Lila pointed, her heart lifting with a spark of hope. As they neared the clearing, the ranger station loomed ahead, a sturdy structure standing resilient against the chaos of nature. They rushed toward the door, Ben forcing it open and ushering them inside. "Quick!" Lila shouted breathlessly. Once inside, they slid down against the door, panting, relief flooding through them as they took measure of their surroundings. Tension still hung in the air, but for the moment they were safe. "What now?" Hope's voice quivered as she caught her breath, looking anxiously at Lila. "We need to gather supplies, make a call," Lila stated, scanning the station. Maps, radios, and first aid kits lined the walls. "If we can establish communication, we can alert the others, tell them the safest escape routes." Ben grabbed a radio while Darren rifled through drawers for anything useful. "It's worth the shot," he muttered. "Can't wait here forever." Lila's nerves trembled, a storm of fear and determination swirling within her. She glanced at Zoe, whose eyes were still wide with fright, but she wore an expression of fierce love. "I'm going to get us home, I promise," Lila said softly, kneeling down to cup her daughter's face. Squeezing her hand tightly, Zoe nodded, small but unyielding, trusting in her mother's strength more than ever. "Together?" she whispered. "Always together, sweetheart." Lila smiled, feeling that flicker of hope morph into a flame of courage. Just as Ben made radio contact, the ominous growl met their ears once more. Fear ricocheted through the group. "It's coming for us," Darren yelled, panic threading his voice. "Everyone get to the windows, look out for any signs." Lila commanded, instantly stepping into her role as a leader. Together they moved, adrenaline surging through them, instinct guiding their actions. Eventually they spotted a flicker amidst the trees, another survivor. "It's a ranger!" Ben shouted, relief washing over him. He's signaling for help. "Let us go!" Lila yelled, racing toward the back exit, Zoe gripping her hand tightly. When they burst outside, they rushed towards the man waving frantically, a glimmer of hope illuminating the chaotic dark. Lila raised her voice amid the commotion and flames. "We're here. We made it." As the ranger dashed to meet them, the growl rolled menacingly from nearby, a reminder that danger loomed close. Lila felt the shift in the air, the urgency of the moment greater than ever. They could either face whatever darkness lay ahead or be swallowed by it. "Stick together," the ranger commanded. "Follow me." Time stretched thin as they sprinted into the overgrown brush, with flames licking at their heels. But in that furious moment, Lila felt that the strength she had called upon was not just for her, but for every life intertwined in this journey. She was not just a survivor. She was a fighter. Together, they surged through the underbrush, united in determination, echoes of past loss merging into a promise for the future. They would rebuild the community and rescue every soul they could. And as the flames roared behind them, Lila held on to that hope, with the will to emerge stronger, not just as survivors but as a community reborn. "Keep going," Lila shouted, adrenaline pushing them forward into the unknown. They would face this together in the heart of chaos. They found not only survival but a brotherhood forged in flames. And they would carry that strength with them, through the fire and beyond. This was their moment to rise above, to transform pain into resilience, to rebuild the very essence of who they were. Cedar Pines would rise again. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.